Hello, and welcome to the podcast There Are No Good Games, where we discuss our opinions on past, present, and future games, as well as a whole load of other filler to keep us sane while we wait for a good game to play. Let's begin. Okay, recording now. So we are now live and recording.
So who does the intro? That's the real question, because I'm pretty sure people, when they start their podcast, they'll be like, okay, look, I'm frontlining the intro. Okay, let me show you how it's done. But we never discussed this. So who's doing the intro?
I think this is where it kind of goes into, right? Because you sent me a lovely link. So I assume that you had the controls on who was leading the podcast at this point in time.
Well, I don't think anyone's leading the podcast. I think now this is based on anyone can lead. Anyone just takes hold of what they want to discuss. But I mean, who's doing the intro is what I meant.
I mean, I guess I can do the intro, but have we changed it from There Are No Good Games, or is there a different story?
It's still There Are No Good Games. Welcome to There Are No Good Games, where we occasionally talk about video games.
Okay, I can do that.
Okay, you sure? Have you written this down?
We can play around with it. It's absolutely fine. I think
we'll see how many takes this takes just to do the intro.
How many takes to do the intro? Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. Good thing I'm not editing.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to There Are No Good Games, where we occasionally talk about video games. You're here with me, your host Tristan, and we are joined by Ollie.
Hello. I'm very excited for this podcast. It's good to be back with a new spin.
There's always a new spin with the podcast. There's a couple of things I'm looking forward to. I've got a wealth of ideas and art assets I want to share across to you during this podcast that we can talk about and rebrand and revisualize it.
That's good. But effectively, we're started from scratch. It's almost like the last series or whatever series never happened because there was a completely different format. I guess this is now slightly different, but yes, it's still the good old There Are No Good Games that people still liked from previously.
What do they call it? They call it like a soft launch, or they call it like a reboot? It's a reboot.
I guess so. It's kind of like every video game coming out now, which is like it's the Mortal Kombat 1 of podcasts, basically. I would say
that's a pretty fair description.
I would say so. I think that's pretty good. Yeah. So what did you want to share anything from the beginning, or should I just start talking random rubbish, which I always did on the last podcast anyway?
I think we'll talk about random rubbish. We'll go through the games that I'm assuming you sent to me via the web link, and then we can kind of loop up with a bit of show and tell, which I think would be kind of nice to kind of end the podcast with. Okay,
that sounds like a plan. Well, it's not like exactly I want to talk about just like specific games from the link. So effectively, obviously every summer we have what is the equivalent of E3 Summer Games Fest, because E3 is now completely dead in the water. It's definitely never happening again. It was only a couple of days ago from the recording that they announced that even the tourist board in San Francisco is not even it's been removed from the 2024-2025 list. So it's never happening again. We have Summer Games Fest, which I like anyway. I think it's better. I mean, it's not like I was going to San Francisco anyway to play any of these games. So the online presence is much better. But there used to be E3 Recap, but they've rebranded themselves because it is no longer E3. It's just called Games Recap now. And they're providing a lovely list here of games that have been announced this summer, all the different showcases that have been going on. It's a good website. It's always been around, like I said, but it's just kind of rebranded for now the new kind of era of announcements. But obviously there's some key games that have been announced over the summer. Some of them which are coming out this year. In fact, most of the ones I've listed here probably are coming out this year. I mean, obviously Starfield is the big one this summer because obviously it comes out. It comes out 5th of September or 6th of September, but if you buy the special edition, you get it on the 1st of September. So that's that. No one really talks about that because everyone's just kind of accepted that is a good idea because people are going to buy that anyway. But obviously, there's games which I've been excited about. So things like Alan Wake 2, which I think comes out next year. Payday 3, which comes out this year, and a couple of other ones I wanted to bring out, which are kind of like highlights from the showcase. But obviously, Starfield coming out later this year. Bethesda are now owned by Microsoft. So I think this is the first game from the Microsoft owned era, I think. And supposedly Microsoft have been kind of a bit more involved in the making of Starfield than any other, than what people probably expect.
Is that a good thing?
I see. Well, I guess we'll find out. I guess, but no doubt it is. I would say it probably is a positive thing because I don't think they're not interfering to like change the game. What I've heard is like the whole like Xbox Microsoft QA team are basically have just been on Starfield the last at least number of months. So that's clearly a positive on that side of things. But you watched I sent you this showcase. I watched it live, but you watched it on the YouTube recording. What was your initial thoughts, I guess, of that showcase?
So I'm very skeptical of I think all Bethesda games currently. I don't know why. I don't know what kind of prompted me to that. Maybe it was Fallout, but I was kind of skeptical going, they've over-egged it. They pulled like a Fable here, and it's not going to be as good as what they lived up to. I watched it, and I was like, okay, there's some combat. Let's cut to the space stuff because that's my favorite. Eventually, we got there, and to be fair, I was pretty. I think impressed is probably the right way of phrasing it. Like, I've never seen anything look so good and kind of feed in stuff because they were doing like the space combat. And I was like, oh, it's going to be like space combat, shoot stuff, destroy stuff, shoot stuff, destroy stuff. That's going to be it. And then they were like, you can dock with enemy ships. And I was like, ooh, okay, you got me. And it's like, you can now shoot out certain systems of ships as well. And I was like, ooh, this is giving me like some nostalgic FTL kind of feels. And I'm definitely down for this now. So very shortly, I'll be pre-ordering it 5 days ahead so I can get 5 days extra game time.
Of course, as is the modern time. I think you're right. I think like things you mentioned there, like space combat. I mean, like the space combat thing was actually the last thing I kind of thought about in this game, even though it is a space game. Because Bethesda games, they're known for their story, their quests, and that's kind of what I'm kind of into. I like just being able to go off and there's like a gazillion side quests just go off and you're doing the main story. But I think what Starfield is and what they kind of showed off, it's so many different games into one. It's that kind of exploration game on foot, that exploration game in space, that space battle game, the kind of this economy game going on, a base building game. There's a whole load of this stuff kind of plugged into it.
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to say something very controversial. Sorry to cut you off. It kind of feels how I wanted No Man's Sky to be.
But I think No Man's Sky is the exploration, right?
Yeah.
I think that's what it's part of. I know they've now added base building to No Man's Sky, but who does base building better? Well, if we compare like the Fallout system or even just the Fallout 76 system, which I guess is Fallout 4 plus, it's still fun to do. And it probably makes more sense in this kind of base building for Starfield, because if I recall back to base building Fallout 4, yes, you can like build, furniture kind of made sense, but actually building buildings was kind of naff, I felt like in Fallout 4. The only thing that felt good for the base building was actually I think it's the Vault Tech, I think it's a DLC where you can build your own vault, and that felt good. And as I imagine it, I feel like those kind of pieces that go together kind of make up what Starfield base building will be. I think like that is probably what it will look like. So I'm hopeful for it, for that side of things. Exploration wise, well, the graphics will probably be better. Like I think there's more into this than No Man's Sky, which is odd to say because No Man's Sky is based on exploration, but this only has only 1,000 planets. They've made a cut-off limit, and someone has gone through and made sure each planet is its own thing. It's although it's procedurally generated to start with, it's handcrafted and changed. for each one. So they're still unique and there still is randomness in it, but someone has gone in and fudged the numbers to actually look like they're proper planets.
No, sorry, go for it.
I was going to say, but the only thing that I think is massively different is that, like, in No Man's Sky, every planet I think has some sort of like creatures on it and its own like flora and that kind of thing connection. But in this one, I think it's actually only like 30% of the planets have some form of life on it, or maybe it could be even less than that, which is still a lot. So that's still like 300 out of the 1,000 planets, but I think there are definitely significant changes and differences from No Man's Sky to Starfield exploration and base building.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe it is like Starfield feels more like a more realized version of No Man's Sky. Like it's got more in-depth systems. It's a bit more meaty beyond the surface, where I feel like No Man's Sky is a bit like light. You kind of ran out of things to do quite quickly, but with this, you definitely feel like there's a bit more into it. Like I think the way to almost like preposition this as an idea is Starfield fits in between No Man's Sky and Star Citizen to a degree. It's not too technically commanding and demanding for you to go read the rule books, get all the gear, learn how your ship works, make sure you insure it and all that sort of stuff. But it's not too light on the travel and stuff like that where you have to make your own adventures. It's almost slap bang somewhere really, really comfortable, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest, the biggest benefit of any Bethesda game is the modding community. I think that is its biggest win in anything, and people trust Bethesda for modding, for, at least for now. But I'm very hopeful that Starfield, all these empty planets, not empty planets, but all these planets that don't necessarily have loads of stuff on them, modders will see something in them and build something there. And download a mod, and then another 50 of these planets have something unique on just from downloading a mod, and that will change the game up massively. So there's a lot of open space for modders to do their own thing. And that's what's exciting about Bethesda games for me. And, Bethesda have said they're going to be more into modding this time around. Obviously, they did like Creation Club for Skyrim, special edition, and that's kind of where, and Fallout, not as much in Fallout, but definitely for Skyrim, it became quite big. And I think I'm excited to see what they do there, as long as it's not like loads of paid mods and stuff like that, which is bound to happen. And sure, modders deserve to be rewarded. But I mean, that's a different debate entirely about mods and should modders make money from selling something that they don't technically own all the material for, etc. Yeah. But I'm excited to see what happens, and no doubt modding will be fantastic in Starfield, as it always is in any Bethesda game. So,
yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. Like, I'm very impressed with it, and I agree with you. Modding is a very controversial subject to a degree, because like you said, you don't know if it's owned. Why should they get credit for basically building something on top of the system? But I'm just waiting for the classic, how long do you think until someone's decided to build a multiplayer aspect for this?
Yeah, I mean, like, we already know that the Creation Engine, someone's already plugged in multiplayer into the Creation Engine already. So I guess at some point someone will mod it in. Obviously, this is a very single-player game. Bethesda said it's a single-player game. But obviously with all the planets and stuff like that, it'll probably be a lot harder than just Skyrim, which is effectively a flat surface, outside world. You don't go into spaceships. There seems to be less complexities, I would think, but I guess we'll see. But no doubt someone will create a multiplayer mod, as people have been doing. People have done it for Elden Ring. Although Elden Ring already had some form of multiplayer, they just kind of changed it up. Even the people who I think did the Elden Ring thing, or it could have been the people who did the Skyrim multiplayer. Yeah. They started modding Hogwarts Legacy to have multiplayer. So, I don't doubt the skills, and kind of, people are incentivized by it, because people love to take these single player games and add multiplayer to it. So it probably happen, but I would say that it's going to be quite complicated, I think, for a game like this in comparison. But again, people will want different things from this game. As you said, like, you're interested about the kind of, I guess, like, you could play a space pirate and go attack all these ships and raid them, etc., and stuff like that, right? And that might be your play style. It might be my play style to kind of just explore these planets, do the side quests, and that's kind of what I'm happy about. So I think people take different things from Starfield. It is the classic Todd Howard, lots of promises, and I guess we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah,
for sure.
Agreed completely. I'm very excited to see it, and I'm currently looking at the shipbuilding now and just like, I'm ready for it.
Yeah, the shipbuilding, modular shipbuilding looks really cool, and that again, people will do some awesome creations. Like the Starfield subreddit is going to be full of amazing stuff for months on end when it launches, for sure.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I love the fact that like the ships feel realistic. They don't feel too sleek and streamlined like some games. They feel like bulky. They feel like they would be a spaceship. They have like a lovely sense of like you can already tell what type of ship you're getting before you even like get into it. Like some of the ships you just know, okay, this is definitely a transport ship. This is an exploration ship. This is a fighter. Like I just love the sort of like design and feel of them all.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for sure about that, for sure. Obviously, there's some other games that came out, but I want to hit the nail on the head for a few of these. And going through the list, something stood out to me the most, and this is something that you can talk more about than I can. Okay, I counted 14 Warhammer games and then 4 DLCs for random other games, of which one of the DLCs was Power Washing Simulator. Okay. And another board game. So I counted that many. I think there were more DLCs because some I looked at kind of like the ones that came out in the Warhammer thing, but there seemed to be more in the other showcases as well. But that's 14 new Warhammer games. That seems like an excessive amount for one particular thing. No,
I don't think so. I think Warhammer's done like a really good job of this. Like I don't know what's happened. They've done like an absolutely great job of bringing it back. Like they started off with Space Marine 2. And Space Marine 2, I was very impressed with. I played the first game. It kind of hits all your like childhood wants. You play a big old human wrapped with like a big gun and like a chainsword, and you just go to town and stuff. And you're like, this is absolutely what I wanted with everything. The combat's really visceral. It's got some good oomph to it. You feel like you're just a walking tank, which hits exactly what you should be doing as part of a Space Marine. And then they announced Space Marine 2, which I'm very happy about, which is like you fighting Tyranids versus fighting Orcs. But they did the one thing I was very excited about, which is introducing the idea of multiplayer. Like, for me, it's such a good idea to have 3 or 4 friends who are all Space Marines cutting through like lines of Xenos and aliens and stuff like that, going to town, covering each other and all the tactical stuff of it as well. I think they did a really good job of it. The story, I'm very interested to see where it goes, because if you play the first Space Marine, it does twist it on its head halfway through. It's like, oh, this is what the game is about. You play it, and then it flips, and you're like, okay, this is a completely different game now. The voice acting is very like on par. It's very extra. It's very like, I want to say like, it just knows what it's doing. It's very tongue in cheek, but in a good way, if that makes sense. And the fact they're doing this with the second one, you can see the Imperial Guard. I'm going to guess there's a Horde mode at some point because it just calls for it, honestly. I think it'll be such a great game to kind of play and sit down with, honestly. I'm very excited for it. I was very shocked the fact they made it multiplayer as well. And I was tempted to message you when it came out, and I was like, Oliver, we should definitely play this because it just looks like a good laugh.
I think it'd be interesting. I mean, I don't really play Warhammer games, but I mean, it's not because I don't like Warhammer. I do like the concept of Warhammer, although it is bloody complicated lore, and I don't have time for this. But I think, yeah, as long as the game's good, that's the main thing. But obviously, as we know, there are no good games. So as long as it has a positive experience in some way, I guess we'll see. It has to be more positive than some other games. When does that one come out, or is that already out?
I think that comes out this year. I want to say
this year,
this winter. There we go.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many of those 14 Warhammer games that I counted actually come out this year.
I was going to say, so I've seen. So there's obviously Warhammer Space Marine. There's I think there's a strategy one, which I can honestly say I know a little bit about. Realms Ruin, which is set off the new box. There's like a Warhammer box that came out last year. It's like orc kind of things and Stormcast Eternals, which are reborn heroes from out time, and it looks like a very light RPG kind of game. I don't know how well it's going to play and how kind of like micromanaging it's going to be. I don't think it's going to be like, I think it's going to be in between Halo Wars and maybe StarCraft in terms of like requirements and like competency to play the game properly, or it might just be like heavy unit type counters. So if you have a ranged unit, you need to have a magic unit to get rid of it. If you have a melee unit, it kills the magic units very quickly. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I think it's a great idea. I'm loving the fact they're bringing it all back. I think Warhammer since COVID has definitely upped a bit in terms of like quality, what they can do, and I think a lot of people have adopted the hobby as well, which is kind of nice to see.
Yeah, yeah. It's definitely improved. I mean, Warhammer has its ups and downs in terms of popularity. Obviously, like, for stages of COVID, it became really popular, but then I think as COVID was dying down, it then became slightly less popular. And so, yeah, I think the game thing's interesting. I do think that the problem, one reason why I mention this is because I think it's because Games Workshop, their licensing is quite good. They're very happy. I think at one stage they were really kind of like not happy to license out anything. They were really strict on it, but now they seem to have gone completely the opposite direction. So, like I said, I think DLC for Power Wash Simulator, Warhammer 1, okay, great. Snow Runner is another one that seems to have one as well. So it does seem like they're pushing the boundaries, I think, of where Warhammer can go. But we'll see. I guess I just worry it can be too much and it will become a meme. Like people, if you oversaturate it, people will not care about certain Warhammer games because they'll just be like, oh, look, here's another Warhammer game out of the, 10 that came out this year. And people want to play more than Warhammer games, I think, if they're if they're actual gamers, not, tabletop games, sure. But for actual the video games, I think there is a limit to how far it can go.
I agree, but I think they've done a good amount. So they've covered off their strategy game. They've covered off like a tabletop RPG with Rogue Trader, and they've covered off their like third-person shooter with Space Marine 2, and then finally they've done their first-person shooter, which is Bolt Gun. I think they've done the right amount to kind of feed into it. It's not too much, it's not too little, but it's not like they're kind of thrashing every single day, going, "Here's another game, here's another game, here's another game." They've gone, "Here's a nice selection that should hopefully fill out everyone going forward. Please enjoy," which I think is the right way to do it from a company perspective.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see. People will people will start complaining if they feel like it's getting too much when the releases actually start coming out. So we'll definitely see that. But I think it's just interesting to see such an iconic brand go quite full out in terms of the number of video games they've started licensing out, for sure. Speaking of games that are popular with people, is the Payday series, and Payday 3 is coming out later this year. So for ages there was silence, and then suddenly it's like, oh no, it's coming out this year, which I think was a big surprise. I would have thought it was going to take at least another year, but Payday has always been a really good, fun experience that you can have with friends. But I watched the trailer, and I think some people do agree with me online as well, is that it seemed very kind of combat heavy, the trailer for Payday 3. When I played Payday 2, with my brother, we basically tried to do every single location as stealth. That was like our main thing. And I think it's down to it's more challenging than just like shooting everything, right?
Yeah.
But also because it's more strategic and timing, etc. But also, I never found like the combat that interesting or fun really in Payday 2. So I don't know if they've changed up the game quite a lot, as in this is what they want it to be. They maybe think, okay, well, more often than not, people are going to get into shootouts at the end of these heists. So this is what we want to focus on. Hopefully then it means it's better, that kind of combat addition to it. But the main concern I saw from people was it just looks like Payday 2. Now, I can tell you from the visuals, it does not just look like Payday 2. Payday 2 is built on a really old engine, and this is built in, I think, the latest Unreal Engine. So it's very different there. But also, of course, it's going to look like Payday. If people said it didn't look like Payday 2, as in the gameplay was different, I would be worried, because that's not Payday. You're creating a whole new thing. So I found that a very odd kind of statement that a lot of people are making, is that they're worried about it because the gameplay looks like Payday 2. Well, I don't know. I think Payday 2 came out a long time ago, a very long time ago. It probably is more than 10 years. So it did need a refresh. and it's a good series, fun series as well. They're still building maps for Payday 2 still, but that is because I think they ran out of money and they needed to fund Payday 3 with Payday 2 DLCs. So that's fair enough. But funny enough, Payday 2, people absolutely are not happy with the company that make Payday because they've released like 3 different console versions for Payday 2, and none of them got updated. Like, as in they released, and I think after like 4 months, they just didn't get. They were never ever in line with what the PC. I think they launched not in line with the PC version, and they never were updated anywhere near the PC version either. And there's reasons for that are very public, but people ignore. The engine was like a proprietary engine for Payday 2, and so like it was so hard to edit console stuff. It was practically impossible for them to do it. But clearly they still released it for the money. So yes, okay, bad. But this is built in Unreal Engine. Unreal Engine is built, for consoles, for PC, to have that kind of multi-platform aspect. So I think people who are console players who will be playing Payday on a console, I wouldn't worry about the horror stories of Payday 2, because I just don't think it equates to the same thing. And the company's been very open about that recently, saying that it's not going to be the same, which is all words, sure. But I think with the understanding of the problems they had previously, it shouldn't happen again.
I mean, I'm interested because I think dipped my toes into Payday a couple of times, which is like, I play it, I do the combat, I've tried to play online a couple of times. It's okay, but I do kind of sit in the more combat heavy point of view. It does look like Payday. It seems to feel like Payday from like the gameplay aspect so far. I'm interested to see what they kind of do with it and change with it. There seems to be a couple more kind of feels and looks to it, which is nice. But yeah, I'm interested to see how it plays realistically. Like, they seem to have included some additional classes from like the police side of things, of like the brutes. They've added some more gadgets that you can now use. But yeah, no, I remember playing it previously and I just kind of did all the combat. So for me, it looks kind of fun. The fact you can upgrade your guns and scopes looks kind of good as well. And I think they've definitely customized it. The question is, do you think they'll do like any story aspects to it, out of curiosity?
Well, they did for Payday 2. They kind of had an overarching story. So like from map to map, it kind of was telling a story, and that's how like the four kind of main, I can't remember any of their names, it's been so long, but the 4 main people, they kind of, that's how they retired into it. Basically, they retired from following this story. So there probably be some overarching story, but I don't think they'll go. I think it would be weird for them to do like a proper story mode, because I think the thing with Payday is it's about replayability, and especially like the multiplayer aspect. Like, you just want to replay maps, do new challenges, do it different ways. I think the thing they should have concentrated the most on is making maps more interesting and more varied. So you can, you build the bank. Obviously, the shell of the bank is always the same. And they did this in Payday 2 occasionally on a few maps where the layout was slightly different, and it meant that you had to change up what you did, or, cameras were in certain locations, like, and that was, maybe that could be random instead of it being fixed between 3 different setups. Basically, I think the more that happens, the better that game is, because that's where that's where the fun of Payday is, the replayability. And as I think with that, it'll be better, but we'll see.
No, exactly.
They've hardly released anything about like what they've actually. I mean, they've released like the trailer, obviously, and they have started to do these kind of like devlogs things, which are quite cool. But we're still waiting for a lot of the key information to see exactly what the game is about and what their kind of key focus in development has been. So I'm looking forward to finding that out for sure.
Yeah, no, it'd be good. I'm interested here, and I'll definitely give it a couple of goes when it comes out eventually.
Yeah,
September, I think.
So I was going to talk about Microsoft Flight Simulator, but I did not want to talk about this for as long as the other games. But there's a reason why I wanted to bring this up, is that in 2020, Microsoft released what is the latest Microsoft Flight Simulator. And it was designed to do, very heavy microtransactions. People could buy planes and this and this, whatever. And for people who play Microsoft Flight Simulator previously, it was a big kind of, it's a simulator. People did it for flight simulator, practice, or to like actually fly the plane, because they enjoy actually flying planes or learning to fly, whatever it might be. But that game has changed massively because of the Game Pass, and it being on Game Pass and it being on console. where it's a lot more kind of, you play with an Xbox controller. So it's become a bit more casual, but still has all those interesting things in it for PC. And I'm sure on console, I've never really paid attention to actually how the controls work on console, but they're releasing Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. And we should have really seen this coming because they named the last one 2020 when it came out. But that was just kind of like, well, all the other flight simulators had years and, they're just trying to in keeping with it. I thought it was, this is Microsoft Flight Simulator for a long time, especially with the tech they designed. It didn't really need much more. They could have just added content to it. But they are doing like effectively a new whole release for all these updates. And their trailer they had focused heavily on a lot of these kind of casual things that, yes, could be fun for people who enjoy Microsoft Flight Simulator. But I just felt like it is 100% targeted for that console market. So I'm a bit kind of miffed by that. It was a big surprise when, I saw the trailer and I thought, wow, okay, they're adding all this new stuff to Flight Sim. That's cool. Clearly to make it, beef up the game a lot more. But no, it's an entirely different game. Same tech and everything. I can't, they might have updated it slightly, but it's pretty still top end what is in the current Microsoft Flight Simulator. So I find that re-release a point of discussion is like, should have they done that? Does this mean that are we now going to be in the whole, oh, well, I don't know, I should probably skip this year's one because in 2028 it's going to be much better now. I feel like that's an issue that could come across with it.
I mean, I think some of the ideas are quite promising. So like the cargo transport, the crane stuff, the picking up hurt hikers and stuff like that makes quite cool, like the cargo ops and stuff like that. I think that's like a nice way of doing it. The only thing I'm kind of agreeing with you with is like the charter service and the skydiving thing. I don't think that makes as much sense, but I do like the idea of like giving a bit more oomph and challenge to it. Like the glider stuff seems quite fun. It'd be cool if you could do like even the scientific research and filming and stuff like that. It sounds good. And it's kind of nice to see a couple of differences to it, because I think and I probably fit into the casual bit here, so I apologize profusely. I kind of went, cool, I've flown. I'm now going to try and land. Cool. Now what? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like I wasn't a big fan of the online stuff.
Looking for. Yeah, that's what you need, the missions effectively, which is what this new game they're making is. It seems very mission focused, which is cool, and it gives people something to do. So they're clearly solving an issue which they found, and you've just said there that was the issue, is that you didn't really see a need, because it's not like you're not the type of person to go into it and go like, great, I'm going to fly an EasyJet flight from Manchester to Schiphol, Amsterdam. Like that's not your thing. I have done that a few times, but that's because of the enjoyment of flying, that aircraft and doing that flight pattern like it is in real life. And that's, that's what I wanted to do. But I can see that's not gonna fly with people on console who are a bit more casual. They don't want to do that. They want to. And especially when they can't add like the liveries and stuff like that, like people on PC can, I can see, it is more, I want to be a firefighter in the sky kind of thing. I want to fly a helicopter, to do these missions. And that's cool. And I think that's all well and good. I think they're not bad ideas, but I think that it did not need to be a new game. They should have just updated the latest one with the mission system.
No, I agree. That's
it clearly is the same engine and everything. It's no different. They've just added content and renamed it.
Yeah, that's a little cheeky. So I'll give you that one, honestly. But yeah, I think the content bit's really good. It's a nice thing. I thought you were initially going to talk about the June expansion for Flight Simulator. Honestly.
I don't know. I don't know about that one really. As in, like, I don't think I don't understand it. is basically I don't understand why it's a thing.
I think for me, Microsoft Flight Simulator falls into a very weird niche of people. A lot of people like flying stuff and flying planes, but the issue is I think they fall into the same bracket as me, which is after 4 or 5 hours and trying to bounce your plane off the ground and see if it works, or trying to flip a 747 into like a loop. You kind of run out of things to do. So I think they're trying to pad up for the more casual players and kind of broaden their market, which I think could be interesting, especially if you want to do like some. One of the good things I can imagine, which would be a really cool scenario, is if you have an air traffic controller, you could have someone be an air traffic controller managing 2 or 3 helicopters and a jet picking up water and trying to stop a forest fire. Like that sort of scenario stuff would be kind of cool to build out from like an RP sense, because that's what I've understood Microsoft Flight Simulator, where it really kind of, like you say, takes flight, is with the RP community and everyone pretending to be pilots to a degree.
Well, I mean, but the thing is, like, all those things are already in the current flight simulator, as in, they're third-party tools to do it properly. But it's fully, Asobo fully integrated it into it, so it all works like magic. And people do, are the London controller of England, and they will do all the London airports, and that's normal for people to do. And people stream it. These people get 300, hundreds of views for Flight Simulator for being a air traffic controller. They'll get people viewing them. But that is more, again, on the kind of realistic side of things. Like, that is not kind of like the fun stuff, like, as in, it is fun for them, sure, but it's not like the casual fun thing that people are looking to do. Like, you got to know your stuff, because you got to do it correctly when you're speaking to the air traffic control. And for sure, the air traffic controller has to know what they're doing by managing the airports, and they have kind of like a ranking system, like I won't call it an experience system, but effectively you've got to be good enough, and you kind of work your way through the difficulties, and eventually you get your license to be the Heathrow operator, and then you can sign into that when necessary. So,
okay.
There's a lot of that already, but I think but I'm telling you, I don't think they should have created a new game. I don't think there's a technical limitation to it. They've just done it to, yes, it's on Game Pass, so fine. They're not they're not gaining any extra money from that, because people just download the new version instead of having the old version on as part of their Game Pass, right? But people on PC, the people who play this kind of like religiously as their main simulator thing, they probably don't have Game Pass. They're not into a wider range of video games. They just like this, so they're probably gonna have to buy the entire thing again. And the top thing, when it came out in 2020, the top package was over £100, like, to get all 80 aircraft and stuff like that. Oh. So we'll see if there's like maybe there's an upgrade system for this, but then I don't know how it's gonna work if you bought it on Steam or anything like that. So I have no idea. But that would be interesting. As part of the game announcements, there's one more thing I wanted to bring up. I know there's loads of other games, of course, like Alan Wake, Baldur's Gate 3, Fable, Star Wars Outlaws, like a lot of these big games, but they don't really have the controversy I'm looking for here, or the discussion points. Okay. But the thing, actually, it's a positive thing, okay, which is the resurgence of demos for games, okay? Now, this has been big because recently, you got like the kind of dev summer games fest stuff that goes on Steam, where devs can upload their games or demos of their games, so you can play them over the period of like 2 to 3 weeks. And that's been very big on Steam recently. A lot of people love doing that. I think the most recent one just finished. But the two games which I would like to highlight here, because they're AAA titles, so it's actually AAA titles, not just indie games, which would be on Steam for this kind of Game Pass stuff, which is Final Fantasy 16, which is now out, and Lies of P, okay, which is the kind of Souls-like Pinocchio game, which is not fully out yet, but the demo came out earlier this week as the time of the recording. So for Final Fantasy, I think it was about an hour and a half demo, and for Lies of P, I think it was about an hour-ish. Okay. But this has been where people have played the demo and they love it so much they are actually excited for the real game, which I feel like in modern day is a massive surprise. Yeah. Because generally games do not, the pattern has been recently, we're not showing, we're not giving review copies, we're not giving this, we're not doing that. And I think this is a massive game changer, that if we are going back to AAA game demos that are coming out, 3 weeks in advance of the full game, I think that's a positive, because it shows that they have at least some kind of success in what they're trying to produce. They feel like they're happy to show off this part of the game. Yeah. And both of them are just the starts of the game, I believe. And the good news is for Final Fantasy 16, the save carries over, which is brilliant, because then you can play the game early. And then you just, when the game comes out, you play it. And for Lies of P, I'm not sure, but it generally was like the first like boss or two that came out with it. But the feedback from that was positive, mostly from that game. There's still things they're working on. I think the dodge or block system is being fixed slightly, but that's good because they got the feedback now. They know where the pain points that they can fix it for the real game. So I guess what I'm saying is, what are your thoughts then of this? Like, do you think more games should do this? Do you think this is the start of game companies moving away from hiding their game before the release date?
So I'm gonna sit back for a second. I'm gonna have a sip of my tea, and I'll go into it.
I see you're fully ready for this.
I'm fully ready for this. I'm very excited.
Okay, I'm going to hold my tea while you do this. So
you can cup it and hold it. Yeah, use
I
it
can
as
cup
like a
it in
hand
my
warmer.
hand. Yeah, exactly. Well, I feel cozy while you go on this. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think it's so refreshing to see that, because I'm gonna hit this from two angles at the moment. The first one is from like a childhood aspect. There was nothing better than being able to test out like Sly Raccoon, I don't know, Sonic, or like Crash Bandicoot and stuff like that, buying like a PC Gamer magazine, plugging it into your computer, and then going, this is a good game. I want to play this. I don't want to play this. I want to play this. And it was such a good idea to see it, because you got to have a taste of it. You got to try and work it out, and you didn't have to commit to the full game. Like Jack and Dexter, for example. I played 1 and 2. I played the third one. I wasn't a big fan of the third one, but I knew that was where I had to draw the line. I didn't have to worry about like saving up or asking for it as a Christmas present. I played it and I'd got it sorted out. The second bit of this is the fact that I think a lot of companies now, like Microsoft, Sega, Square Enix, are picking up on it, which is a great idea, because it's going to save people from doing the worst thing ever, which is like buying games off like G2A, CD keys, and all that sort of stuff. It's really going to start to kill that market. Because I think for me, if there's a game you like, but you're not quite sure on it, you've seen some reviews, but you're not quite sure if you're going to like the full end-to-end game, you go on a site like that and you buy the game for cheap, because you're like, worst case, it's not good. Best case, it's good and I like it. Because companies like Steam, some of the other game companies, I'm going to use this as an example because I love using this example. No Man's Sky, you could play it, but if you played more than 3 or 4 hours, Steam just stopped all refunds going back into it, which I thought was like such a horrible idea, because no one liked it, or people who didn't enjoy it at the time tried to refund it, and Steam went, nah, you're not going to do that. We've decided against it. So I think demos, ironically, are the best way to try out a game, get a feel for it, play it end to end. And if you like it, play the demo again and again and again. And then it lets you jump up at the story, which I think is such a smart idea. But then it also lets you just carry on from where you left off. Like a good example for me, and I'm very sad about this. There was a place in London, I think it was there was a game in London, like a game store, where you could go in, sit downstairs in like a cool air conditioned room, which is very like topical with the heat going on. And you could pay to play a game for X amount of hours. And it'd be like maybe like £2 or £3 an hour. You could buy a drink or two, and you could sit there and do it. And what I did was I went down there with my partner, and we played God of War, the first one, like the new revised one. And it was absolutely such a enjoyable thing, because you could play the first 2 or 3 hours. I went, yep, that was a great game. Super excited to go play that. Walked upstairs, bought the game, bought a controller, like a pro controller, and then went home and then played it for like another 12, 15 hours to a point. But I think demos are what you should do with games, right? Because you shouldn't have to market it, show off flashy videos, show off great cutscenes. You should be able to play the game, test it out, and go, yeah, this works for me, buy it, and then carry on with your life. It's like, I don't get why they dropped it. I get maybe from like a download perspective from like internet, or not being able to have the CDs for it anymore. But yeah, redoing this is such a smart idea. Very happy they've re-picked up on it. Genius.
Yeah, I mean, the good news is for like Final Fantasy, the bad news is it's PlayStation only, right? It is coming to PC, but it's definitely a PlayStation exclusive to start off with. So clearly, like, people were able to download that, and that because obviously the PlayStation has both the kind of digital PlayStation where it has no disc and one that does. So obviously it needed to support downloads, and internet's getting faster. Not for me, but it is for most people in the first, in the main era that we live in now. So that's fine. And I think, yes, obviously when you're, do you want to be downloading loads and loads of demos beforehand. Now, that's not to say you have to play the demo. I mean, I haven't played either. I watched on Twitch someone play the Liza P. I watched Lyric, and that was enjoyable to watch. He plays lots of the Souls like games, and so he said it was good, and I trust his opinion. It was fun to watch. The Final Fantasy 16 I have stayed away from because I do want to play it myself when it comes to PC. And that would be my first, apart from Final Fantasy 14, that would be my first kind of single player Final Fantasy game. So I'm kind of saving myself for that one. So, but again, I read the copies. Again, I heard streamers comment on what they thought, how they played it afterwards after I avoided it. So that's good to know. And I think it's shown a positive that maybe game developers can spend more time on the demo.
Yeah,
the flip
agreed.
side of it is that you will have some people who will come across and go like, why they've wasted so much time on a demo instead of making the same game. This game wouldn't have so many bugs if they just focused on the whole game and not building this demo kind of thing. And I can see it now, and this will come soon. Now, I don't think these maybe Liza P when it comes out, maybe the later game that wasn't in the demo, which is pretty much a lot of the content, because a lot of the kind of, I think it was like skill trees and stuff were all missing from the demo. You could like see what they were at the end of the demo once you kind of got the thanks for playing message.
Yeah.
In the kind of room you ended up in. A safe room kind of thing, but then you couldn't really, I don't think you could actually do anything with it, or it was too late anyway because you've completed the bosses, so it was kind of irrelevant. So maybe that's going to be not balanced, and that's going to ruin the game. Who knows? Pessimistic take there for sure. But for something like Final Fantasy 16, which is all story based, they literally showed off the opening of the story. They could feel a lot of like the combat and stuff like that. And obviously the guy who did the combat, Devil May Cry, did the combat for that as well.
Okay, that makes sense.
Received. So it's definitely new. I mean, this is definitely a modern take on Final Fantasy games, because they obviously it's real time combat. It's a very different paced. The funny thing is that I read is that for Final Fantasy 16, the lip syncing is all done to the English audio. It's not done to the Japanese audio. And that is because in Japan, lips are apparently not that important to being able to lip read. Like, as in, in English speaking languages, European spoken languages, you might look at someone's lips to better understand what they're saying, the enunciation, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And you can kind of lip read. But apparently in Japanese, because of the lack of like vowels and consonants, they have fewer vowels and consonants than we do. That's why they've focused on doing the English lip syncing, which is very funny, because it is obviously all the time. Final Fantasy is being very Japanese based, and people have taken this, even though it is clearly, well, you might as well focus on the English audio because it's more important to actually the wider world, and Japanese people don't really care or don't use it as much.
Yeah.
But people have said, oh, look, this is the westernization of Final Fantasy. Well, I mean, that has already happened already. The westernization of Final Fantasy happened with all the MMOs they've started to do. And also, it's a modern era. You can't have these clunky mechanics, which were the foundation of these JRPG games a long time ago. They don't really fly anymore. And in order to sell copies, you've got to do it to a larger market. So people have found, obviously, people always find the negative in this stuff. But I think it's a positive. But the game's out. I mean, I'm staying away from everything, but the reviews seem very positive. Obviously, there's a lot of this game they still have to play. But when it comes to PC, it's, as long as it's still looking good, it'll be my first Final Fantasy game, apart from 14, the MMO.
So. Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, demos good is what we've come up to.
Demos very good. Do more.
Good.
Because I think even demos don't need to be like a separate piece of gameplay. If you just have it as the introduction for the first hour, time box it, that's great. Because at least then you know exactly what's going on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you can definitely have it, either time-based, or you play up to the end, the midway through the first act, or even just the first act, depending on how big your game is, right? There's definitely all this stuff you can definitely do to get people into it. And obviously there's an art to a good demo, in my opinion. I think Final Fantasy had done it well. Liza P, again, it's more of a linear game. So again, I would say it's hard to mess up. But it's when those games which are not linear, that's where a bit more work has to go into it. And maybe that's where the complexities come, where games like that can't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So they'll just end up spending too much time on thinking, how do we do the demo instead of actually just working on the main game? And I can kind of see that being a problem at some point for sure. Yeah. So that's good. So far the summer's been pretty good of good announcement of games. I'm looking forward to a few of them. I'm skeptical of a lot of them, most of them, but we will see. We will see. I'm most looking forward to Starfield, without doubt. Without doubt. That will be. I mean, we had Harry Potter early days, so another story single player game. Yeah.
Yeah,
It could be contender for single player game of the year. I mean, you like Baldur's Gate, don't you? So
I like Baldur's.
No.
Oh, I was gonna say I like Baldur's Gate. I think my issue with the Baldur's Gate and like Divinity and Divinity 2 is the game never feels finished to a degree. Does that make any sense? Like it's up to date, which is great, but it's never like finished. Does that make any sense? Like there's still like things that feel a bit jarring. Like I played Divinity 2 with my partner for a while, and we'd run into issues where if one person took the quest, one person handed back the middle part of the quest, and then someone did the other part of the quest, it would like break the game so you couldn't finish it or you couldn't get the like end you wanted, basically, which was so frustrating. But yeah.
But I guess that's like that's the issue, I guess, when multiplayer, a syncing issue, not just like a technical syncing issue, but clearly a design-based syncing issue, that one came about as well. But I guess, yeah, I don't know. I didn't know Baldur's Gate 3 was going to be multiplayer, or is it not? I don't know.
It is multiplayer. So Divinity 2 and Baldur's Gate 3 are all multiplayer. So you could buy Baldur's Gate now, and we could literally sit on the podcast and play it for a couple hours if you're interested.
Okay. Well, that sounds like the worst idea ever. I'm not interested whatsoever. But thanks for offering, for sure.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Not for me. Not for me. I still watched like the trailer and stuff, and I mean they've got some good actors in there. But I don't obviously anyway. The only issue is that, not for me, but for a lot of people, I think because of the now early access, effectively Starfield gives, which is the week before, 5 days early. Mm-hmm. I think there's a week difference between Baldur's Gate 3 and Starfield now. And obviously Baldur's Gate 3 is probably quite a big game based on the story and the type of game it is. And obviously Starfield's massive. So I think a lot of people are now thinking, oh no, how am I going to play both of these in September so close to each other, along with all these other games? I think Payday is September as well. There's so many games coming out in the latter half of this year that is going to be a massive cluster of what people want to play. I mean, I'll be sticking to Starfield for a very long time. That will be my game. It means I don't have to play with other people, so that's great.
Yeah, because you love multiplayer games, so that'd be nice.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I think for me, like, it's just like, how can I say this nicely? It's a good time to play games. Like, the nice thing is with like 3 or 4 games coming out back to back, you can literally just take your time and just pace it out very slowly from one to the other. Like, I do like doing that sort of stuff with games. Like, I think a good example is I played Space Marine like 4 years after it came out, and it was one of the best things I've ever done because I played it. There was no one bothering me. I didn't have to like rush through it because I feel like I wasn't going to like lose it. But I could just play it, and it was just super fun, super well like done. And then I got to like I didn't have to deal with any day one issues of the game as well, which is also nice and a good idea realistically.
Yes, I mean, as long as those day one issues were fixed. I mean, I'm sure there's games, and maybe there's still issues in games like that still are not fixed because the developers either couldn't do it or they were busy doing something else, right? Too busy releasing DLC. So I think the act of you can wait for a game. I don't think, I think it's very easy for us to say, we've got to pre-order Starfield so you can play 5 days early. Well, that's a risky move because the game could still be broken. It doesn't matter how much QA has been put into it. It's a Bethesda game. It's bound to happen. It's the nature of their engine that they've got. But Skyrim, and Fallout both have those mods that basically fix a lot of their bugs in the game. So the thing I would be most interested to see is if Bethesda actually focus on fixing the bugs more than whatever obviously the same people who fix bugs do not work on the DLC content. They're not the same people. So there is no argument of, oh wow, they're too busy releasing DLC. That's not true. They're different people. But are those people now working on the Elder Scrolls, the Elder Scrolls 7, or 6? It's 6, isn't it? I'm getting ahead of myself. Yeah, the Elder Scrolls 6. So we'll have to wait and see that one. But we'll see. But games that come out, I mean, this is this is not the first podcast topic that we should do. So we'll leave it for another one. But obviously, you are a big person to say you shouldn't change review scores just because a game fixes itself. You've kind of always stood by that comment, and obviously I disagree. But we'll leave that for another whole episode of discussion on fair. Whether, you know, because I think there's a lot of real life analogies that aren't video games that also you could say, well, you know, if you release a chocolate bar and it's bad and then they change the recipe later to fix itself, it's still probably unlikely to buy the chocolate bar again. So it's not the same thing. Anyway, we'll leave that analogy and that topic for another.
I'm just pointing out that you very quickly got like a couple of jabs, and then you're just like, okay, we're done now. We're done. I'm sorry.
Okay, we're done now with this topic. No,
that's fine. We're done with the topic. That's fine. I'm happy to agree with that. I just laughed at how you throw in a good couple of jabs. And you're like, okay, we're done now. We're done with the topic.
Okay, we're done with that topic. We'll come back to it later. I'll sweep it under the rug for now, and hope no one ever mentions it again.
Put it back in this cage, basically. Yeah.
So obviously, I feel like we've done our game bit now. So I was going to move on to loads of random rubbish I was going to bring up. So was there anything you wanted to bring up, or you said you wanted to show off something to me? Or
I'll get to that in a bit. I was going to talk about Armored Core 6 because I know you like a good bit of Souls games to a degree when you finish them. I think Armored Core 6...
A mech game, classic. I'm ready to listen to your...
I'm very excited to see what happens with it, because I know that the company that does it obviously does Dark Souls and stuff like that. But it would be very interesting to see what happens with like Armored Core 6 and how it kind of plays into everything else and how it stands out and stuff like that. I'm very excited just to see the customization and like the different play styles and all that sort of stuff. And the fact the best way to describe it looks like a Souls game at heart, but it's been masked over with Armored Core features and like feels, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Is that what you're most looking forward to this year? Is Armored Core?
I don't know what I'm actually looking forward to. I think this is like a weird point where I'm looking at games now. I'm like, is it worth my time to go play this, or should I go be doing something else instead? Armored Core, I think, kind of fits that bucket. There's another game called Phantom Brigade that I've been playing, which is absolutely crisp and lovely. But apart from that, that's been kind of it. And Diablo 4, obviously, and a little bit of Mechabellum. But yeah.
Just a little bit of lots of different games then.
Well, yeah. Like there's three, maybe like, I think at the moment I've got maybe like 1 or 2 games on at the moment, which is like AFK, go make a coffee, can kind of play the game. And there's like a game where I have to like require thought and kind of can go around and do stuff. But yeah.
I mean, at the moment, I'm kind of like on the back seat of games at the moment. I'm just kind of like, I know for a fact I'll be playing Starfield a lot when it comes out. So I know in 2 months down the line, that's what I'll be focusing on my time on. So I have been playing up just a Diablo. I'm trying to get through the story. So I feel like I'm the type of person when it comes to games like this, where I want to do the story side myself. I just dislike doing story stuff like that multiplayer when it is a single player bit, right? But obviously the rest of the game, all the dungeons and everything else, and obviously you've still got to wait for the first season of Diablo to see what that's like and actually what, you know, is that going to keep people playing exactly what I paid for. So I still want to do the story and then do how, you know, I'm trying to level up and then we can do dungeons and stuff, you know, together and stuff like that. But for me, you know, I'm slowly getting through the story. It's Diablo again is the type of game where I just need to sit down and I'll play for a good number of hours and then it'll be a couple of days before I play it again, basically. And I'll just see whether people want me to do dungeons with them or I want to do the story. So that's kind of it for Diablo. But I've been getting back into my iRacing recently.
Okay.
Which is obviously one of the most well-known racing simulators. So it's definitely it's not arcadey. It's very much kind of, you will not have the grip of the tires if you don't warm up the tires correctly. You know, if you go off, your tires will go cold. There's a lot of stuff like that. You know, aerodynamics it's all part of the game. So I've been doing a couple of open wheel races there, kind of getting back into it. It's been over a year since I last played, so yeah, it's been good. So next week I will be starting my Formula 4 journey after doing a bit of like the rookie open wheel stuff. So that's been good. But the problem with that is that I've been playing on an evening because that's where most people, you know, again, it's played all around the world. And actually you can end up playing against people in Australia or United States. That doesn't matter where you are. So it doesn't really matter about time zone. It just happens that a load of Europeans pop on and otherwise Americans are at work during the week anyway. So I've been playing, but the problem is it has been so hot in the UK the week of the recording that I am literally sweating. I think the problem is my headphones as well. I have like massive wireless headphones on, and I literally am sweating so much while trying to concentrate the heat, and like I just have no air. I suppose like it's been hard. It's like being a proper racing driver. I reckon I actually do lose weight while playing just from the pure sweat that that leaves my.
Yeah, definitely do like a weigh-in beforehand and a weigh-in after. I'd like to see the difference there.
I should do. I mean, Formula One drivers, they lose about like 4 kilograms, 4 to 5 kilograms when they race, and that's for like just under 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
So it's quite a lot just from sweat that's leaving their body. But yeah, I'm sweating a lot, but it's not bad. So I'm struggling, but I might wait for the cooler weather to really get back into it properly because it is a struggle. And if I do my windows open, but I've got to have like no lights on and I can't see what I'm doing. So it's all very, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate timing for sure. At the top, on a top floor of a 3-story house.
Yeah.
So that's been strong. So I've been playing those games, but obviously, a lot of my time is just kind of like chilling. And this comes into my next topic.
Okay.
Okay. And I'm going to title this kind of section of the podcast as the YouTube rabbit hole. Okay.
Oh no.
Now you're probably waiting for what I'm about to bring up. You probably know what I'm about to bring up. Okay. And it kind of really hit me a couple of weeks ago where I started watching vivarium videos. Okay. And this includes like, people who like literally look after ants. Or like worms, like they have like massive tanks of like plants. Like they've literally got a tank with their own ecosystem in where like insects will eat and creepy crawlies will like eat each other. And the guy's like running the channel and he's like trying to explain. He's like, I've got to balance out, the food chain and I've got to do this and this. And I'm like watching. I hate biology. I do not care whatsoever. Okay. The channel I like started this like rabbit hole was a guy called Nordic Ants. Okay. And he didn't just do ants. He does like a whole thing.
Does he do like the Tarzan noise at the start of it? Or is that Canadian ants?
I don't know. I don't know who. No, I don't know that one. I don't think that's the Canadian Ants guy either, who I have watched as well. But this Nordic Ants guy, he lived in Indonesia, so the Nordic part is beyond me of like where that comes from. He probably is from a Norwegian country. But so the video like I watched, like it came out 5 months ago, and it has like 1.8 million views. But it's like a proper thing. It's like a 2 hour, like maybe, actually, I don't remember. I think it's like an hour and a half. But it's like an hour and a half video. And it's actually an hour. It's an hour. It felt like a lot longer, but it's like an hour long video. I think the video is like titled Years Old Tropical Ant Vivarium. And so it's like over the course of like 2 years, he's like recorded footage and like cut it down into an hour footage. And he's made it like, it's like an historical, like, battles go on. Like he releases new ant species. Then he released like a centipede thing. It's crazy. Now, also I'm not into my insects. I hate insects. Okay, if I see an insect, I like physically run away from that as fast as I can. And so this is not like my type of thing I want to be hosting in my house by any means whatsoever. However, I am enthralled in this video, and I watch it, and I watch it from start to finish. And I'm very when I eat, I don't really like. I sit usually at like a desk or in front of a computer or something like that, and I usually watch like cooking videos. Like there was like my last year's rabbit holes was basically people who do like food challenges. Okay, and there was a guy called like. And another one just goes to takeaways. A guy could rate my takeaway, which became very popular last year. But this guy, Beard Meets Food, is like my other big channel I watch. Whenever I sit down to eat food, he only releases stuff on like a Sunday now. I used to do it like twice a week. But now it's only on a Sunday. I will watch his video as soon as I can because it's like the most interesting. I don't know. I just love watching it because the food I watch, like, I could never eat this stuff. I think I can while watching it, obviously. Well, I'm hungry. But as my belly becomes full and I continue watching the 12-minute video, I realize this guy is a monster. He can demolish anything. But the food does look amazing sometimes, even if it's just like a full English cooked breakfast with 12 eggs, 6 sausages, and just like they just add stuff like chips. Chips seems to be the thing that all these restaurants just add to the dish to make it bigger. But yeah, it's just carbs get added to it, make it more of a challenge. But yeah, I look at this, go, I could eat that. Wouldn't finish it, but it looks amazing food to watch. So that guy's like one of the ones I got into recently, like last year, and then I do religiously watch. But these other rabbit holes I get into, like I haven't watched a Bavarian video in a while. Like this guy, the Nordic Ants guy, only releases one like clearly every couple of months because he kind of like does like a collation of like what goes on. I did recently join his Discord, which goes on, which is massive because I don't join random Discords. Like I'm the type of person who uses Discords for like friend Discords and like I guess now business use type stuff, right?
Yeah.
But I'm not like into the whole like, I'll join this community. Like I don't really do that as much. So this was like big for me to join something which I'm really like not that big into, but I'll watch the videos.
Yeah.
I just find it fascinating when I watch this stuff. But okay, this is like where it gets weirder, okay? Because this week I have entered a new rabbit hole, okay? And luckily it is only one particular channel, but this channel has a lot of videos and it is a bit different, okay? So this is for house building, okay? Or like construction projects, right?
Yeah, I'm curious, is this like primal caveman house building?
It's not, no.
Okay.
This is like actual, like they actually know what they're doing, okay? So the channel I found was like a channel called Perkins Builder Brothers, okay? It has 800,000 subscribers, okay? So I'm not the only one, okay? But it came up on one of my recommendations, like the classic YouTube algorithm. The YouTube algorithm knows me well because I will go down it for sure, okay? But the latest one that came up was like it was titled. I did write it down for this. Okay, it was titled Mountainside Getaway Home. Okay, they released it a month ago, 2.6 million views. All right. Now, I know nothing about house building. Okay, I'm a software developer. I hate hardware stuff. Okay, so this is like as far away from what I do as possible. All right. But I watched this 2-hour video.
I was going to say, I'm literally looking at it now and I'm like, holy crap, it is just 2 hours.
And this is where it gets even worse, is because the current thing I'm watching from them, okay, is like a where's the playlist? Okay. The playlist is building a small income property. It's 45 videos long, and each episode is like 20 minutes plus per episode.
Yeah.
And it's like they're building a house from scratch. And I'm there for every moment of it, and it is crazy. I cannot stop watching it. It's so good. But this is different because like the Nordic Ants guy, he talks over it, but he's actually not the most interesting person. Like the content, what the insects do is the interesting part of it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The building part of it is cool, like them building a house. Like everyone loves, like men just love watching stuff. Like it's like, you know, people love watching a fire, okay, being built and then being lit. Like it's that simplistic. Yeah. But this time it's a bit more complicated because it's a house and it has to stand upright and last, okay? But it's their personalities. These guys, it's just like these two brothers who own this construction company, which I think is in North Carolina, okay? So it's even further from reality from where I am than normal. But it is like they have like a whole like 3 to 4 other characters who like are with them the whole way when they're building these houses, and they just have good personalities. They're funny, they're interesting, they explain what is going on in the building process. The problem being is that they do not follow the same building stuff that we follow here, okay? As in the UK, like the whole thing's made of brick, okay? Yep. In this thing, the whole thing's made of wood.
Yeah.
So, because it's just like, it's very different building practices, but that makes it more interesting because it's like something I don't know anything about. And it is actually a lot more interesting than just building with brick. I mean, they do use brick occasionally, but that's like for building the basement, and then they just add wood to it and timber, and that's where they go from there. But there's a massive amount of craft work that goes into it. But I just find it, I'm stuck. I'm on video 12 of this 45 like playlist. But they're interesting. They're interesting people. But the YouTube, the YouTube rabbit hole is something I waste my time going down very often.
Yeah, I think they've only fallen into that with one person so far. So it's Casey Neistat. I used to occasionally watch his vlog, like his daily vlog he did. I'm not sure if you're aware of this or not.
He's a very big, he was a very popular YouTuber. I don't know if he's like big now, but he was very big vloggers, wasn't he?
Yeah, so he's always phrased as like the godfather of vlogging, and like it's the most confusing thing I've ever seen how he does it, because he makes a vlog, right, and the vlogs range from how many 5 minutes to like 10 minutes at a time, and it's just his day. It's just his day. And at the moment, I'm on this playlist. I'm like slowly working through the vlog, and I think I'm on what day I'm on? I'm currently flicking through this. I'm on day 77 out of like 400, but they're like nice, small, digestible stuff. Like, good example, he's got one video called Quitter, which is 11 minutes and 16 seconds, and he's got Why Do You Vlog, which is 4 minutes and 30 seconds. And it's just like such a nice change of pace. You see what he's doing every single day, and you go back into it. And like, I think for me, that's my YouTube rabbit hole as well. Or it's like learning. Like, I don't know why, but like learning on YouTube, they make it sound so simple and so easy. You're like, I can definitely go do this. You get up, you walk away from your desk.
Oh yeah, I'm ready to build a house for sure.
Yeah.
I'm ready. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I
give me a wood, I'll chop it down, and then I'll build a house out of it. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, like I don't know what it is. Like I've been watching that, and then there's another one which is like such a bad one, which is it's like a guy doing like primal living. So he's like, I'm building a house out of mud and sticks, and you're like, wait, what? And you watch it, and you're like, I could do this. I could definitely do this. And you kind of get yourself hyped up for it. And then you look at it, you're like, I couldn't do this. I definitely couldn't do this. It's just
I'd go die in the wilderness.
Yeah, I'd fall over, stub my toe, and a tree would fall on me, and that'd be it. This is how I'd like to lose my life. But it's just such a weird idea and concept. Like I love learning stuff on YouTube. I struggle with like content stuff to a degree, but I do like, I think there's a couple of channels where it's like funny game compilations, vlogs, and learning. Those are my three kryptonites on YouTube. Ants Candor was, I've kind of weaned myself off it after a period of time though.
You think it's an addiction, do you?
Oh, it definitely is, because it gives you like I think YouTube's addiction, because it's like, it's a form of escapism to a degree. It gives you a good dopamine hit because you feel happy and they know what they're doing. And then you just kind of listening and listening and listening and watching and watching and watching. And you're like, just one more. And then before you know it, you've binged like 2 or 3 hours on YouTube before. And it's just such a bad way of doing it.
Yeah, I think YouTube is, it's massive. There's so many videos on there, but it is, the problem with YouTube is, and it's the YouTube algorithm, is that sometimes it works out really well. As in, I don't know why they thought I wanted to see a, hillside, mountainside getaway home being built from scratch. I don't know where they thought that data was important. Like they gained that data to know, let's feed him this one. He's going to love it, right? Yeah. So I think it's really crazy that sometimes, that Vivarium video, I don't think I ever searched anything related to that once. So I don't know how, again, I got that. It wasn't like sometimes where I'll go on like Reddit or I'll be on Twitter and someone will post like a link to a video and I think, that's great. This is cool. I'll watch it and then I'll get into it and I'll click their channel and I'll start watching more ones. And that's also a very viable way to go down the YouTube rabbit hole. But it's not like the same as just like you're watching, I'll be watching the food, Beard Meets Food, and then suddenly I'll be recommended how to build a house. I'll go watch that. And then I'll just get more recommendations for that until I'm deep into watching that series. And then suddenly I'll be recommended something completely different.
I think we could definitely do like a topic or a video just on YouTube, because there is a science to it that I'm slowly bashing my head against a wall trying to understand to a degree. And it seems to be going okay in some degree. But I get exactly what you mean. Like, it's such a weird way how they recommend stuff. Like, I went to Christmas with my partner. I was like chatting to her cousin, and me and him were just chatting. I was like, "Oh, what are you watching?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm watching this like catch and cook season on YouTube." I'm like, "Oh, is this the Taradara Bros?" He's like, "Yeah, that's the one. Like, fuck, they're so good." Blah 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 blah. And we're just like, I don't know how we both somehow end up watching like the exact same videos, like within like a year or two between each other. Like, I watched it initially, he then watched it. I don't know how YouTube does their algorithm, but they're definitely doing something right there.
Because the thing is, like, sometimes I'll be on a video and it'll be like a video that came out a while ago, okay? And then I'll see in the comments, like, a fairly new comment and someone being like, "Oh, the YouTube algorithm is out at it today because they suddenly found it." Yeah. And there'll be other comments like liking it and commenting under that. And you'll be like, "Oh, well, same for me." Like, clearly something this got put in a feed for a lot of people. But like, for example, I'm on this episode I've got open on another tab. Okay, I just literally scrolled down on the right hand side of YouTube. You've got all your recommendations and what it wants you to watch. Okay, so no doubt a lot of them are like from the same channel, but a lot of them are also like other building ones which are related. Makes sense to it. Okay.
Yeah.
But then I've got like I played 100 Days of Dredge, okay, which came out 13 days ago. It's gaming related, so I guess it hits some mark on my YouTube stuff, but I don't know why that is relevant to me. But that's an hour-long video, 13 days ago, 800k views. So, okay, so if I suddenly thought, great, I got an hour to spend, I'm going to go watch that and see what someone did 100 Days in Dredge was like. Great. Asmongold plays Diablo 4 for the first time. Okay, right? Then it gets slightly more weird. The 1 billion open TTD battle royal compilation from the Spiffing Brit. Okay,
yeah.
I don't know where that came. Sleepyhead Passion Pit piano cover, which has 6.2k views 8 years ago. Okay, why is a video from 8 years ago with that small amount of views being pushed to me? I don't know. But
Sleepyhead does slap though. I do like a good bit of Passion
Pit. This piano
Pit.
cover could be good. So, but yeah, it is crazy that some of these things get put like that. That music video, for example. If I'm not the only one today gets pushed that video could go from 8k to 100k in the space of 3 days just because the algorithm pushed it up. And it something must cause it, but it's a mystery to anyone who knows, who thinks about it, because I just don't get it. And later down the line, I get racing videos, which have nothing to do with this. There's live streams for races, which I would have watched for last Saturday from similar channels. It clearly picks some stuff. Okay, artisan sourdough bread processed from start to finish. Okay, 3 years ago, 4.9 million views, 1 hour video. That is now something completely new again. But I could be oh, that sounds interesting. I'm going to go watch bread being cooked for an hour. I just don't get it. But that's the type of thing I would click on and I'd watch. And then suddenly next week, I'll come on the podcast and be like, do you know what I learned how to do this? Hot crust buns, And I watched a 2-hour video about the history of hot crust buns. And that's the thing that happens. That's what you'll be recommended. And it's just odd. It's funny to me. Yeah. Write in to the podcast if you also have weird theft. Do we have an email for this podcast yet?
It will be coming up probably. I'm going to try.
There are no good games at gmail.com. Okay. If that's not our email, Tristan will edit that out and add the real one.
I think it'll probably be there are no good games at tv.com.
At tv.com.
I don't. Give me a second here. You're really challenging me here at the second.
I've thrown you off by creating emails on the spot. I'm
you have. This is
there are no good games at dungeoneers.tv.
Exactly. There we go.
Okay.
There we go.
That's
winner, chicken dinner.
That's a pretty long email. I think, this is working this out as well. What about podcast at dungeoneers.tv? So then people don't have to type out a long sentence. Okay. So we'll keep this in. I'm sure Tristan can't be bothered to edit the last bit out. So if you have anything that you want to, if we mentioned anything you want to add on, it's podcasts. Is it podcast or podcasts?
It'll be podcasts.
Okay, with an S. Podcasts at dungeoneers.tv.
Yeah.
If there's a description on wherever this is put, I'm sure it will be put in there, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then I think, sorry, go for it.
So I was going to go down to the description now and be like, it's not there. Where is it?
No. So the way I'm going to do this, there.
You're making a promise now. So if someone goes down to the description right now, wherever they're watching it, they will find the email to email. Even
if there's nothing about the description of the episode, there will just be podcasts at dungeoneers.tv. That's
if it's not there, please send your complaints to complaints at dungeoneers.tv.
Oh, God. I think that actually falls nicely into the next topic I want to discuss, actually. So I don't know if you're still looking at my screen, perchance.
I have not watched it once, but I will.
I was looking at the videos as you were talking about them and all that sort of stuff. So we've got a little bit of show and tell going on.
Okay.
So as you know, we've been working. Well, I've funded someone to go do some work for us.
Okay.
So if you look at my screen, hopefully you can see that now. There you go.
I can.
So you've got yourself and myself. I'm asking him to redo some of the bits and bobs of it just for context. I think you're on the left, I'm on the right, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. And my hair is a bit lighter. Yeah. Okay, cool.
So, there's moi attempting to paint something. That's like his screen tests and stuff like that he's been doing. And then there's yourself, who's currently doing some coding, because that's what you do.
Classic. That is what I do. Spend all my time doing. Yeah.
If I find this, though, this is what I'm really happy about, actually. So he's just sent me this. Where is it? Let me grab it here. Is it going to pop up? I really hope it is. There we go.
That's your room.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I thought that was really cool. It's like
good. I like it.
It's nicely done. It kind of has a fit. It kind of goes with the vibe of what we're doing here. And then this is what he's trying to do on top of it, basically.
Nice.
So
he's done it like a proper anime.
Yeah, I know. Well, I basically said I want a lo-fi thing where basically we can slap stuff over the screens. So when we're doing the podcast and stuff like that, if you want to go play Dredge for an hour or go watch stuff, you can have it on screen happening. And then we can just like watch it in the background, if that makes sense.
I see. So that you can just add like memes to the screens as we're discussing. So as I mentioned, Dredge, like you'll pick up me like scrolling through my YouTube recommendations and stuff like that, basically. I see.
Exactly. And the idea would be like there'll be like a little blood take talking thing that I can probably link up to the sound and have it like talking over there while playing a game. Or if one of us is like doing less talking, it can work vice versa. So basically, that's the idea of what we've been working on. But it'll be like a 10-second constant loop, and it'll be like a seamless loop as well.
So this is people who are watching the podcast on video platforms like YouTube, for example.
Yeah, so that's the idea of it. So today's one's probably going to be literally I'm going to go play Dredge tonight, or probably the last spell, and then just put the podcast stuff over the top of it.
I see.
And then that way it's just kind of like it's there, it's a little bit blurred, and then you kind of can just listen to it in the background and all that sort of stuff, which I think will be really good. But yeah, when that gets sorted out, eventually we'll then whack this on top of it, and then that will be the new format for the podcast. And then it'll be on the YouTube channel, There Are No Good Games, which has already been set up.
Nice. As well as things like Spotify, Amazon, Apple.
Yes, hopefully. I need to go do the research tonight as part of my lovely daily vlog I'm trying to do at the moment. So yeah.
A bit behind the scenes.
Exactly.
Like well, okay. Well, that sounds very good. I'm looking forward to that when that's ready. So it'll make it more interesting on YouTube for sure. That'd be very cool. Very cool. Should I have a topic that we can end on.
Okay. Always interested to hear topics.
Yes. I mean, I don't know how this section might not last in the other episodes, but I've notified this section as random news that could be connected. Okay. So this came out today. All right. It's probably not filling people up with hope, or you, but okay. This bit of news is from Nottinghamshire Police. Okay.
Okay. That's good.
All right. And a lot of these police forces in the UK, probably it happens elsewhere in the world as well. I don't really know. I haven't gone down that rabbit hole, that much research yet. But police like departments in the UK, different cities, police city, whatever, they will have like a social media presence, right?
Yeah.
And this one, it's kind of like the classic, like you might have had it like in The Wire or something like that, where they're like, we got to show some coke on the table. You know, that's what we got to show from our raid. You know, it's a bit less like that in the UK. But this one, they posted their a £10,000, okay, worth of Pokemon cards. Okay. So they have they're titled it more than £10,000 worth of Pokemon cards seized during a Bolwell drugs raid. Okay. So they posted this on their Twitter. And obviously, it's become a hit because, cardboard crack isn't a term meant to be taken literally, is one of the top tweets on that thing. Very, very funny. That's good. But I was just going to read this. So two officers, right? They're from the knife crime team, which is a very UK thing. Were on patrol 11:20 a.m. All right, on Wednesday. Right, so clearly people buying drugs early in the morning in this place.
Yeah.
And they noticed a man acting suspiciously in an alleyway, okay, between like two locations, which is irrelevant to the story. He stopped and searched, another classic UK, where a quantity of Class A drugs are discovered, all right? So they clearly arrest him, whatever the Class A drugs are. And then obviously a warrant is then carried out at the address where this guy lives. Where they found a large amount of Class A drugs in the kitchen. All right. So for those who don't know, who are listening elsewhere in the world, Class A is things like heroin, cocaine, probably, weed, marijuana is probably a Class A in this country, probably, even though it's legal in other countries. But it is what it is. Cocaine. So they say this block of suspected heroin and crack cocaine. Officers also seized more than 5,000 in cash. But this is where it gets good, okay? They found in the house a glass display case containing a complete set of sealed Pokemon cards worth more than £10,000. All right. And at this place, 33-year-old man and 32-year-old woman were arrested on possession, not of the Pokemon cards, of the drugs. Okay. So they clearly took the Pokemon cards as well, as per the tweet. Now, what I want to know is who at Nottinghamshire Police valued the cards, okay? Because I don't think they might have, a specialist in these police forces that's like, this block of cocaine is worth this amount of money, the street value, okay? I don't know if they have a specialized team for we evaluate Pokemon cards that's found on the streets.
Do you have a picture of the box so I can just get
They do. I will link you the tweet, and I don't know if we do show notes on this podcast. Who knows? But it can get added to the show notes.
I like how you're just giving me more work to do. Realistically, let's talk.
Okay, I missed.
Ooh, okay.
The problem is what they've done is they from the photo they've clearly broken it out of this display case and just shoved them in a bag, right?
They've lost all the value right there. Then he's just got a lot of collector's boxes. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Now, obviously, people who are listening and obviously on Twitter, because Twitter is obviously the best place to have civilized debate on, have said why have they taken the Pokemon cards? Well, supposedly, I'm not, in the police force, but it's probably evident this addiction to Pokemon cards or whatever this is was funded by the drugs. Okay. So some people, they sell drugs for nice cars. These people, 30 to 33-year-old man for a Pokemon cards collection.
No, let's talk about the upside of this.
All right. What was the upside?
No, give me a second.
Okay, I thought you were saying, oh yeah, no, there is no upside. What is the upside to this?
There is an upside to this. Someone is going to be very happy at the next police auction when someone goes, Pokemon cards for sale, and some kid is going to get the best birthday ever because they've got sealed boxes. They've got sealed, I think they're first editions in there. That guy is going to be the world's best father, I think, honestly. But if you think about it, and I'm saying this is as a possible philanthropy escapade, we should definitely go up to Nottingham next time they have a police auction and try and buy them and then auction them online.
Right, I've already, as per usual, now on a website, okay, for John Pye auctions, which luxury items which have been seized by the police, okay. Yeah. All I see is watches, jewelry. Oh, Nottingham, okay, right here. This one, okay. This one includes designer clothes, footwear, accessories, fragrances from Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Nike, a load of other ones that they don't pay me to say it, so why bother? Sorry. These are Gucci shoes. These are ugly. These are bad. Sorry,
I'm just laughing because one of the lots I'm looking at, I think it's the Nottingham police one. They're selling copies of Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom on there. I'm just okay, those are definitely not real.
I would have arrested someone who bought that game as well. Yeah, that's true.
But I'm just laughing at stuff is they've got signed T-shirts. They've got loads of other stuff. I reckon if you write into this company and be hi, I saw that Nottingham arrest this guy and took all his Pokemon cards. Could you please let me know when you're doing your next auction, as I would be very interested in buying them and reselling them.
I thought you were insinuating that now civilians were going to start reporting Soviet era reporting people to the police so they can gain their Pokemon card collection. We've got to find some dirt on this guy so they can confiscate his Pokemon cards so we can have them. Is that what you're basically saying?
No, I'm not saying that. Which means if we write into this
that sounds like a lot weird. It sounds smart. I was going to say it's a smart idea, but if you're clearly not wanting it, I'll take credit for it because that sounds like a very smart idea.
No, what I was going to say is I'm sure if you write to this auction company and go, hey, I heard you guys are selling the Pokemon. I heard that police arrested this guy for this. Are they selling his Pokemon cards, or are you going to auction off his Pokemon cards? Because don't take this the wrong way. There's Lego on here, and this set is definitely worth like
There's a Hornby set as well. Yeah.
I'm just really enjoying the fact there's like this much of it's like there's some nice suitcases. There's a Canon lens, like a bougie, like proper like red ring Canon lens. There's like a live bidding for this stuff. What's it got? There you go, flight control stick.
I don't need a flight control stick.
No, but you get what I mean.
Why? Where did this? What was this flight control stick? Maybe this guy was using it to control drones to smuggle drugs into a prison. You never know. Like, I don't know whether the morality of me getting that flight stick is good enough. You know.
But have you ever woken up and got?
I don't think they probably will not say where they got these items on the auction. They won't say we arrested this guy for we took a like less coke. Right, in terms of street value from this guy than we did Pokemon cards.
I know, I'm laughing at like, do you want to Lucrucier? I don't know what that is. It's just like, it looks like a.
I don't think I'm going to be buying stuff from a police auction. I don't. Why would I want a used casserole dish from? They could have cooked meth in that. You never know. Like I don't know. Like.
do you want a Segway board?
I did not. No, I don't know what I like. Honestly, when I thought police auction, I thought cars. You know, I did not really go into. I know we looked into it, but you know, cars were on my top list. I thought cars is where it's at. I think it's in Germany now. I think it's in Germany where they're now suggesting that they're going to, if you like a court going like over the speed limit too many times, they'll confiscate your car and auction it off.
Yeah, I think that's probably a wise idea.
That is crazy. That's a crazy idea.
Like, no, but like, it depends how like bad you're doing it.
I'm not pro speeding, obviously. I just want to put that out there. But I think it's crazy to confiscate someone's car for going over the speed limit twice and then being like, I'm sorry, we're taking your 60 grand car off you and auction it away from you. So just from going like 5 miles off the speed limit twice, you've lost your 60 grand car.
Also, I don't know what's happened. Like, I'm looking at the auction side at the moment because this is the rabbit hole now we're down in. I think someone like definitely either sees like a tech shop because it's like iPad covers, USB-C charged for Apple, MagSafe charged for Apple, Magic keyboards, AirPods wireless cases, battery packs, chargers.
Are these real? Like, are they actually official Apple products?
Yeah, no, look, they're like all Apple products. So they've got like the kit to it. They got like PlayStation controllers. Like, I honestly don't know what they like took away, but I feel like they definitely like broken, like seized a shop or like seized like a dodgy, I don't know, dodgy place.
Some people run laundromats to wash their money. I mean, instead, what we have is Gucci outlets and Lego shops is basically what we've got now.
Well, like they've got like a very nice PC case here. They've got a bunch of Xbox Series X fridges, which I know were popular at the time. They got like the, what do you call it? It's like the hoverboards, but they're built for like off-roading. Like, I don't know what's happened here. Like, someone has definitely done something, and I don't know. I'd love to hear the context of this, because, like, again, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Modern Warfare 2, do you want an espresso machine, Ollie? Like, they've got it. They've got the one with the cafeteria built into it. Like, I'm very confused. I'd love to hear the stories. I feel like this is like its own, like, documentary series, like, how did we get into this state? And it's just like,
if you are a police officer or auctionist who does police stuff, you can write into us to let us know your story at podcast@dungeoneers.tv.
Yeah, exactly.
And we'll read them out and understand it better on the podcast.
Or even better, we'll invite you on the show and you can get us in for some good deals. No, but like, I'm very confused. There's a lot of computer stuff here. I don't know if like gamers are the worst thing. Like, they've got like GoPro things, they got like fans, they got like vinyl players. I'm very fascinated. This is worse than a YouTube rabbit hole. It's like,
I reckon, do you know actually what it could be? Okay. It could be, and this is from like an episode of The Wire where people like opened up a crate and it had like all cameras in, right? And they stole the whole crate of cameras. Is that this could be from like stolen shipments, but then they obviously confiscated all the stolen shipments and you don't know where they actually were going. So you just have to auction them off. Like, that could make sense.
I get that.
They're stolen goods. Like that could be where they come from. I don't know. You could raid an entire shop and be like, this is all ours now.
Well, that's what I mean. I just don't get how that kind of like passes on, because obviously if I go into a shop and steal a bunch of crap, I would then think the police would return the stolen crap back to the shop after the case. But does the shop go, I don't want it anymore?
25. Well, no, if you like steal stuff from like, 25 different shops, like all over even just a county or even a town, right? They're not going to exactly, like you took a receipt with you of what you stole, right?
Yeah, no, that's
So
fair.
I guess in some way they won't know. But I mean, like, you break into a lorry and steal from the lorry, like, yeah, sure. But if you do that, if you get away with doing that multiple times, then you have no idea what was heading where, what
No,
distribution
that's fair.
center, who actually owns it,
Speaking of, they're also doing they did an auction for an F1 replica car, which I just laughed at because I just thought of you.
Oh, that was probably because they couldn't pay. Like, I have seen, it's like
It's insolvency auctions, to be fair.
yeah, that's like they went to the Lotus. There was like an episode, like, this is classic like British TV, where the random scrap you find on British TV during the daytime is like people who go in, because a company's gone insolvent and the courts have ordered to confiscate this amount of worth of items and stuff. And on this episode, they went to like I think it was like the Lotus factory at the time, which don't race in F1 anymore, but they took like a replica car, basically. That was you do at like trade shows. And I was like, oh yeah, this can be auctioned off to raise the money you owe to this other person, whatever. But like, this probably stuff happens all the time, and cool stuff like this probably is on like sites like this that we have suddenly stumbled across only from finding out that Pokemon cards were seized over Twitter. Like, this is the YouTube rabbit hole, but for Twitter, basically now.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just
We've created a new one.
It's very, very interesting. Like, yeah. Perfect.
Wow. Well, I'm glad that we could finish on something so utterly mundane and probably people are like, what on earth are they talking about? Well, anyway, that's this week's this podcast. I'm not saying this week's because there's no way you're allowing me to rant on this much every single week. But I felt like it was a good first episode.
Yeah, I think I was pretty happy. I'm trying to think of a name for it at the moment. I've got There Are No Good Podcasts, which I think kind of covers it aptly.
See, so we're now changing the name of the podcast.
No. We just call the episode There Are No Good Podcasts.
Okay. I thought you renamed the podcast. I was like, we're gonna have to redo the intro. I think we mentioned it multiple. It was in the email you originally suggested. There's a whole load of things that are no longer changed. It's kind of like in films where they're like, they remove a cup from a background or something, or they're holding a Starbucks, whatever it might be. And that's what you've done to the episode now.
Yeah, exactly. It's a perfect little tip to kind of get there. But yeah, okay. Cool.
Well, thank you everyone for listening to the podcast. We'll see you next time, I guess.
Yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.